Good afternoon. I thank all the attendees for taking out time to join us in today's presentation. I once again welcome you all to another webinar from MTBC and a quest to continue educating our providers and our clients about the ICD-10 program. The first webinar that we hosted about ICD-10 focused upon the background, the benefits, challenges, and the impact of acceptance about the ICD-10 transition. Whereas this webinar is going to educate our providers about the IT tools and solutions to an effective ICD-10 transition. That is the system training in simple words. So let me just first begin by introducing myself. My name is Athar Maqsood. I will be moderating this session. I'm one of the industry specialists here at the MTBC. Now before I start or get into the details, let me first begin by telling you that all the participants of this webinar have joined us by using GoToWebinar service. You can see a GoToWebinar panel on the right-hand side of your screen. If you want to minimize the panel or get it out of the way, you can do that anytime by using the orange arrow that's pointing towards the right corner of your screen. This will allow you to minimize the panel and get a much wider look towards all the slides. Now, this webinar has been scheduled for 60 minutes. So sit back and relax. Meanwhile, let me proceed with the slides. If you do come across any questions that you would like to ask, so do not hesitate and feel free to ask as much questions as possible. There is a question section available on GoToWebinar service. All you need to do is open up the question section, enter your questions, and submit it. And we will try our level best to answer all the questions at the end of the webinar when there will be time for question and answer sessions. And in case if we are unable to answer all the questions that will be asked during this webinar, we will be reaching back to you by email. Now, just a quick refresher about MTBC before I start. MTBC was founded in 1999 and is currently serving 60 medical unique specialties in 42 different states across the country. We have 2,000 plus employees with 24/7 operations. We are ranked among the Deloitte Technology Fast 500. We are an Inc. 500 over 5,000 company. We have got 3 international offices, and we are a SureScript certified solutions provider. MTBC is also listed on NASDAQ. Now let's have a look on the synopsis of webinar. Now these are the points we will be discussing today in this session. First of all, I'm going to provide you with a detailed overview about the ICD-10 program, so you will have a clear picture in your mind what exactly are we dealing with. I will be highlighting the comparisons between ICD-9 clinical modification and ICD-10 clinical modification. We will be discussing the ICD-10 transition timeline, the current update from the CMSN, and the submission of claims by using the WebEHR. Moreover, the family history, the WebEHR assessments, and WebEHR prescription will also be discussed during this session. Last but not least, we will be talking about the ICD-10 changes on PMS claims, along with the tools and resources. Now, talking about ICD-10 program in detail, ICD-10 is the 10th revision of the International Statistical Classification of Diseases and Related Health Problems, a medical classification list by the World Health Organization. It codes for diseases, signs and symptoms, abnormal findings, complaints, and social circumstances, and the causes of injury or diseases. ICD-10 provides more specificity with coding by increasing available codes from 25,000 in ICD-9 to 140,000 in ICD-10. Now, as you all know, the deadline for the United States to begin using clinical modification ICD-10 is October 1st, 2015. The deadline was previously October 1st, 2014, but a relaxation time frame was given to all the providers so they can understand and become familiar with the program before they start using it. And obviously, all HIPAA-covered entities must make a change during this time period. Practices should also check with their EHR vendors to make sure that they understand the data storage requirements for the new code set. They need to seek online training available through association websites and software-based instruction, and invest in additional technologies such as patient kiosks to boost productivity. And obviously, after October 1st, every ICD-9 code will be replaced by ICD-10 diagnosis code. Now moving forward, let me just provide you with a refresher about the comparison between ICD-9 and ICD-10 clinical modification. Because if you do remember, for those providers who did attend our first webinar that we hosted about the ICD-10 program, we did discuss about the comparisons between ICD-9 and ICD-10. So let me just go ahead and give you a real quick refresher about ICD-9 and ICD-10 comparisons. In ICD-9, the diagnosis codes are 3 to 5 numeric characters, whereas if you talk about the ICD-10, there are 3 to 7-digit alphanumeric characters. There are only approximately 14,000 codes in ICD-9, but keeping ICD-10 in mind, we are straight away talking about 69,000 plus new codes. The ICD-9 diagnosis codes are not quite explanatory and lacks detail. Therefore, the provider needs to add modifiers to them. But comparing that to ICD-10, the diagnosis codes themselves are very specific and instructive. So no need to add any further modifiers. ICD-9 also lacks laterality compared to ICD-10 that has laterality. And in ICD-9, it was quite difficult to analyze data, but in the upcoming ICD-10, there is specificity, which improves data analysis. Moreover, ICD-9 has limited space and do not allow to add new codes, whereas in ICD-10, there is a flexibility to add up the new codes. So the front page of the news still lies the same. ICD-10 is less than 5 months away. The question is, are you ready for the big change? This slide over here shows the 4 quarters of the calendar year 2015. We are currently in the 3rd quarter of this year, and the go-live date for ICD-10 is October 1st, 2015, which is the first day of the 4th quarter. That is less than 5 months away. So before October 1st, all claims must contain ICD-9 codes, but after October 1st, that's not going to be the situation anymore. The claims need to have ICD-10 codes going forward after October 1st. And if the providers decide to put in ICD-10 codes while submission of claims prior to October, the insurance companies are not going to accept it. And in the same manner, if the providers continue to put in ICD-9 codes even after October 1st, that is the implementation date for ICD-10, insurances won't be entertaining them. So that means no ICD-10 codes before October 1st and no ICD-9 codes after October 1st. Now here's the latest update from the CMS end that we would like you to acknowledge. CMS has decided to make ICD-10 transition less disruptive for the physicians. We would like to inform you that the CMS announced several critical changes to the transition period, so the physicians can continue to provide high-quality patient care without risking their livelihood. These changes include, number 1, it is the claim denials. For the first year ICD-10 is in place, Medicare claims will not deny payment for unintentional errors as they are from the appropriate family of ICD-10 codes. In addition, Medicare claims will not be audited based on the specificity of the diagnosis codes. Secondly, it's the quality reporting penalties. Similar to the claims denial, CMS will not subject physicians to penalties for the PQRS, that is the Physician Quality Reporting System. The value-based payment modifier or meaningful use program based on the specificity of the diagnosis codes as long as they use a code from the correct ICD-10 family of codes. In addition to that, penalties will not be applied if CMS experiences difficulties calculating quality sources for these programs as a result of ICD-10 implementation. Now, the third slice of this pyramid shows payment disruptions. If Part B Medicare contractors are unable to process claims as a result of problems with the ICD-10, CMS will authorize advance payments to the physicians. And moving on to the last portion of the CMS update, it is about navigating transition problems. CMS will establish a communication center to monitor issues and to resolve them as quickly as possible. This will include an ICD-10 advisor devoted to triaging physician issues. Now, let us just now concentrate on the changes that are being made in the MTBC's WebEHR. First of all, let us just talk about the WebEHR Claims section. Now, this is the main menu as you can see on your screen. This is where you can apply all the ICD-9 codes for now, but in future you can even apply ICD-10 codes. When you click on the Add or Modify button, that is now being highlighted on your screen, a new pop-up window will appear on your screen, that is the Add or Modify window. Now, after you click on the Add or Modify button, you will be able to see the Add or Modify Diagnosis pop-up. That is the new view. The changes that have been made include, first of all, it is the ICD-9 and ICD-10 radio buttons to specify the primary code search. If the date of service is prior to October 1st, the My List codes being shown in the ICD section will be of ICD-9. That will be sorted accordingly in an ascending order by code. And similarly, if the date of service is after October 1st or on October 1st, the My List codes shown at the top will be of ICD-10, sorted ascending order by code. Now, these radio buttons would also drive the My List entries. Selected ICD-9 radio button will display ICD-9 My List, and ICD-10 radio button will display ICD-10 My List. Now, the features Begins With, Contains, and Smart Search will follow the currently implemented functionality for both ICD-9 and ICD-10 codes. Now, swiftly moving forward, let's just discuss about searching a new code. Upon searching for a new diagnosis code, the result would be filtered according to the following hierarchy. Number 1, users need to select ICD-9 or ICD-10 radio button as a primary search parameter. Search results would be populated by corresponding My List that will be selected by default or all directories. Users can search by code that will be selected by default or by description, and the user's entered parameters, that is the code or description, would be filtered according to the Begins With, Contains, and Smart Search criteria. On entering the search criteria and clicking on the search or pressing the enter key, a result pane will appear with the filtered results. User selects from one of the primary codes by checking its checkboxes. A new pop-up appears to the user showing corresponding secondary codes. User will be able to select multiple secondary ICDs against the primary ICD. That's pretty obvious. And in search by descriptions, user can enter a single keyword or multiple keywords in the text field. The search would populate according to the Begins or Contains criteria in the search type, and it will populate all ICD codes that contains all of the user keywords irrespective of their order in the text field. Searching by code would display results sorted ascending order by code, and searching by description will display the results sorted in alphabetical order, that is A to Z order. That is for the description. Now, clicking on the primary results checkbox, result will open pop-up with all corresponding secondary codes. That is, by searching and selecting an ICD-9 code, all corresponding ICD-10 codes will appear. Conversely, searching and selecting ICD-10 code will show all corresponding ICD-9 codes. The secondary codes window will follow the following heading, nomenclature, and secondary codes order. First of all, let us just talk about the primary search through ICD-9. In the heading section, ICD-9 to ICD-10 mapping will be filtered. The order of list will be accordingly to the ICD-9 code and ICD-10 codes. The selection will be from ICD-10. That will be expandable grouped ICD-10 codes and multi-selectable. You can just check boxes for the respective codes. Similarly, the primary search through ICD-10 will indicate the heading, that is from ICD-10 to ICD-9 mapping. The order of list will be from ICD-10 code to ICD-9 codes, and the selection will be from ICD-9. That will be multi-selectable. You can just check the boxes. Now, the secondary codes window will display secondary code group and description in the title with the plus sign. Clicking on this plus sign will expand or collapse all secondary codes as shown in this snapshot. Now, you can just see it if you just click on this plus sign, it will expand or collapse the code. Now, users will select from one or multiple secondary codes from the checkboxes that corresponding to the primary code source. Users can also click on OK button, and the primary and secondary codes get filled in the ICD preview pane. The primary and secondary search pane pop-ups will now close. If users click on the cancel button that is present next to the OK button, the secondary code pop-up, primary and secondary codes checkboxes would clear, and the focus will return to the diagnosis ICD or diagnosis pop-up. Now, there are two different scenarios. The first scenario is if the claim's date of service is before October 1st. If there is no secondary ICD-10 code present, then clicking on the ICD-9 code from search results or My List will simply get listed in the diagnosis ICD or diagnosis list. If there is only one secondary ICD-10 code mapped against the selected primary code, the mapping ICD-10 code would show auto-check. User will be restricted to add maximum of 12 ICD-9 codes, but there would not be any limit on mapped ICD-10 codes. And in case of ICD-9 to multiple ICD-10 selection, the ICD-9 code will be added as a single indexed entry to all corresponding ICD-10 codes will be shown in the tooltip over mouse over pop-up. Now, the second scenario indicates if the claim's date of service is on or after October 1st. So let us just talk about that. If there is no secondary ICD-10 code present, then the ICD-10 code from the search results or My List will simply get listed in the diagnosis ICD or diagnosis list. If there is only one secondary code mapped against the selected primary code, the mapping ICD-9 code would show auto-check. Users will be restricted to add maximum of 12 ICD-10 codes, and similarly there would not be any limit on mapped ICD-9 code. And in case of ICD-10 to multiple ICD-9 selection, the ICD-10 code will be added as a single indexed entry, and all corresponding ICD-9 codes will be shown on mouse over pop-up. Now, in case the provider needs to edit or delete an ICD code, he has to follow the following step. He can click on the edit button of the primary code from the preview pane, and that will open the mapping pop-up with the primary code and all the corresponding secondary codes selected. User will be free to change or add a corresponding secondary code against the primary code. And on clicking the delete button that is next to the edit button, the primary code will with all the corresponding secondary codes will be deleted. Now, this is the primary claims view. The results are filled in the preview pane as follows, as saved from the add or modify diagnose pop-up that we have just discussed about, in the same form as defined for ICD or a diagnosis pop-up preview pane. The results include, first of all, it will include the listing of primary, that is the main grid, and the secondary codes that are the info buttons, and the indexing of the primary codes. The claims will be saved according to the defined functionality as a draft and can be loaded from the claim summary correspondingly. These claims are called the draft claims. Now, moving on towards the WebEHR assessments, let me just show you a couple of screenshots about it. Now, as you can see on your screens at this point of time, this is the main menu for assessments. When you click on the add button, a new pop-up window will appear on your screen. That is the add window for adding up the diagnosis codes. Now, this screen over here shows the add or modify diagnose pop-up new view. The changes that have been made include the ICD-9, ICD-10, and SNOMED radio buttons to specify which code would be searched. Now, these radio buttons would also drive the My List entries. Selected the ICD-9 radio button will display ICD-9 My List, and so on. Users select the ICD-9, ICD-10 or SNOMED radio buttons to specify which codes to populate at a given search parameters. User can search by description or by code, and the selected code type search results will then be dependent on My List or all radio buttons. Searching by code would display the results sorted ascending order by code, and similarly searching by description would display the results sorted in an alphabetical order by description. Now, clicking on the primary code search result will open a pop-up with all the corresponding secondary codes. That is by searching and selecting an ICD-9 code, all corresponding ICD-10 codes, and all the SNOMED codes will appear. Conversely, searching and selecting an ICD-10 code will show all corresponding ICD-9 or the SNOMED codes. On clicking OK button, it will just list the selected ICD mappings in the ICD or diagnosis pop-up. The primary and secondary search panes will be closed. Now, clicking on OK from the diagnosis pop-up will add the codes in the charts, assessments, and procedures section, and the view would be as shown in the screen. The order will be as follows. The primary codes will be at the front. All the secondary codes will be in the tooltip. Now, here is the tooltip where the secondary codes will be listed. In case a SNOMED code was not available against the primary ICD-9 or ICD-10 code, it won't be listed in the charts assessments grid. And after October 1st, the primary code will be of ICD-10 shown in the detail, whereas ICD-9 will be shown in the tooltip. Now, let us just talk about modifying the assessments. Now, clicking on assessments from the charts menu, it will enable the user to modify the assessments as shown on the screen. On clicking the Edit button next to the primary code from the Modify Assessments pop-up will open the mapping pop-up with the primary code with all the corresponding secondary codes selected. Users will be able to change or add a new corresponding secondary code against the primary code. Now, after a detailed demonstration about the WebEHR Claims section and assessments, let me just now brief you about the WebEHR family history. Now, in Add Modify Family History Control, ICD-9 and ICD-10 and the SNOMED radio buttons would be given along with the problem search field, as you can see on your screens at this point of time. By default, ICD-9 would appear selected, while ICD-10 radio buttons in the selected clicking the search button will put out ICD-10 codes falling under the entered search keywords and the begins or contains with criteria. Now, searching and selecting the ICD-9 code will open a mapping window containing possible mappings in the ICD-10 and SNOMED coding system. It would be mandatory for the users to select an ICD-10 cross an ICD-9 code, but not a SNOMED code against any of the ICD-9 or ICD-10 codes. Now, clicking on the OK button will close the mapping window, and ICD-9 and ICD-10 or the SNOMED codes will be selected. If there is only one ICD-10 and the SNOMED across the selected ICD-9, then the window will not appear. In Family History Grid, ICD-9 code and description would be shown, but the tooltip will show all three codes if available, until the configuration is set to ICD-10 only. That will be after October 1st or on October 1st. Now, clicking on the Edit button will open a new window containing ICD-10 or the SNOMED code mappings pop up for the ICD-9 code present in the set. Using this window, the user would be able to change the selection of ICD-10 or the SNOMED code. In case of ICD-10 only configuration after October 1st, the currently functional system will be managed to search and display ICD-10 codes accordingly. Now, the next topic in the queue that needs to be focused upon is the WebEHR prescription. Now, in the search diagnosis section of Add or Modify Medicine Control, two radio buttons for ICD-9 and ICD-10 would be added as shown in the mockup given below. ICD-9 would appear selected by default, and additions include an info button for secondary codes display against the primary code being shown at the front row. Now, in the medications grid or the diagnosis column, the primary code would be shown. In the tooltip, both primary and secondary codes with the description would appear. Now, here is the tooltip in which the primary and the secondary codes with the description would appear. However, at a mouse hoover tooltip will appear containing both ICD-9 and ICD-10 codes and descriptions. Now, both the codes will be sent to the prescription gate with respective quantifiers, as per the requirement of the short scripts team. Now, swiftly moving ahead towards some of the major changes that have been made in the practice management website, that is the PMS changes. Let us just talk about, first of all, about the ICD-10 change on the claim section. Now, here is the ICD-10 claim section. The proposed changes in the ICD-10 claim section includes, number one, the ICD-9 and ICD-10 radio buttons to specify primary code search, ICD-9 and ICD-10 headers under the diagnosis, ICD, or diagnosis grid, as pointed above. The titles for the primary and secondary codes will be based on the claim's date of service. That means if the date of service is prior or before October 1st, the MyList codes shown in the ICD section will be of ICD-9. And obviously, if the date of service is on or after October 1st, the MyList codes shown will be of ICD-10. Now, this slide teaches you about searching a new code. The results would be filtered according to the following hierarchy. First of all, user needs to select ICD-9 primary search parameter, where the search results would be selected by default, or ICD-10 radio buttons populated from the corresponding MyList that will be selected by default, or all directories. Now, users can select by code that will be focused by default or by description. And on entering the search criteria or pressing the enter key, a pop-up appears with all the filtered results. User selects from one of the primary codes by clicking on it. Now the secondary codes window will display a secondary code group and description in the title with the plus sign. Clicking on this plus sign will once again expand or collapse all secondary codes results as shown in the snapshot. Once expanded, all secondary codes will be displayed along with the checkboxes against them, and users will be able to select from one or multiple secondary codes from the checkboxes that are corresponding to the primary code source. Users can now click on the OK button that has now been highlighted, and the primary and secondary codes get filled in the ICD preview pane will be saved. And clicking on OK will keep a record of ICD-10 codes selected against the ICD-9 codes. And if the user decides to click on the cancel button that is next to the OK button, it will close the mapping window and no ICD-10 code will be kept in the record. Now this slide shows the display in the claims, that is the main menu. The main display for claims would be as follows and have the following characteristics. First of all, the info button against each diagnosis code with the secondary mapped codes, the edit and delete buttons against the primary code that has now been highlighted on your screen. The tooltip will contain ICD-10 codes listed against each ICD-9 code. And after October 1st or vice versa, the tooltip will contain ICD-9 codes listed against each ICD-10 codes. Now clicking on the edit button, it will display all the secondary codes selected against the indexed primary code in the primary to secondary code mapping pop-up, and users will be able to modify his secondary code selection against the indexed primary code, and clicking on the delete button will delete the indexed primary code and all the mapped secondary codes. Now in diagnosis section, a column named ICD-10 would be added. ICD-9 codes and description would appear under the label ICD-9. ICD-10 column would contain comma-separated ICD-10 codes selected against respective ICD-9 codes. Upon a mouse hover at ICD-10 code, a tooltip will appear containing all selected ICD codes along with the complete descriptions. Now this slide displays the settings for ICD-9 and ICD-10 MyLists. Currently functional is only ICD-9 MyList, as the implementation date for ICD-10 has not been arrived yet. So this changes defines addition of ICD-10 MyList 2. And following changes will be made after October 1st. First of all, the distinction of ICD-9 to ICD-10 MyList on the basis of two radio buttons provided, and default selection would be of ICD-9 MyList. Now, here are some of the website links that you may access to monitor MTBC's progress, that what has MTBC done so far for its providers, and what it is planning to do in the future as well to cope up with the ICD-10 transition. The first link is www.mtbc.com/resources/ICD-10. If you want to download the MTBC Converter application, that is pretty useful and informative tool for all the providers. You can just download that on your Android, Windows, or iPhone devices by accessing the following website links that have been displayed on your screens. The second website link that you can see on your screen is for the Android users, so they can just download the MTBC Converter application on their Android devices. The third link has been displayed on your screen is for the Apple users, and all the Apple users can just log on to this link in order to download the MTBC Converter application on their Apple devices. And last but not least, the last link is for the Windows Phone users. So MTBC have kept Windows Phone users in mind too, and they've just designed this phenomenal application for the Windows Phone users as well. So if the Windows Phone users want to download this application on their mobile devices, obviously they can just log on to the last link that has been displayed on your screens at this point of time, and they can just download the application on their mobile device. And we are also providing a detailed training and coaching to all the clients. We have a special ICD team that has been dedicated for the providers who are looking forward to get the training for this application. And I'm just going to go ahead and provide you with the number for the ICD-10 team at the end of the presentation, where you can just call in order to inquire about all the questions that you have in your mind regarding the ICD-10 program. Along with that, if you're looking forward to get the training for these applications, obviously the ICD-10 team will be assisting you with that. All right, this slide shows a few more links about the ICD-10 information. The first link is from the CMSN, that is www.cms.gov/medicare/coding/ICD-10. Similarly, the second link is very informative as well, that is www.wedi.org/workgroups/ICD-10. The website that we recommend or advise most of our providers is the third website link that you can see on your screens. It is one of the valuable and most informative website links that you're going to find online in order to get the training about the ICD-10 program or just clear up any queries that you have in your mind. The website for getting the information, the best information possibly available online is www.roadto10.org. And similarly, there are two other website links that have been displayed on your screens at this point of time. So you can also log on to any of those websites in order to get any information about the ICD-10 program. Now, let me just go ahead and incorporate all the questions that we came across during this webinar session, and we will be answering you that accordingly. So just give me a couple of minutes so I can just incorporate all the questions so we can just answer those accordingly. All right, the first question that I came across during this webinar session was that a provider has asked that in the WebEHR under claim section, will there be a converter for ICD-9 to ICD-10 available after October 1st? The answer for that is yes, we are going to enable a converter after October 1st for all the providers in order to convert the course from ICD-9 to ICD-10. All right, and other provider has asked a very important question that are the providers able to populate commonly used ICD-10 codes for my list at this time? At this point of time, they are not able to populate the commonly used code for the ICD-10 transition, but once they will start using the e-claims module or our WebEHR in order to submit the claims, and once they are going to enter the ICD-10 course within the claim section, they will be able to create a my list for themselves, and those codes will be accessible later on once their my list will be created. Another provider has asked a question that whether I can just show her the ICD-10 search examples, not the ICD-9. Let me just tell you, obviously, when we are going to conduct a training session for ICD-10 for all the providers, we are going to show you the examples for ICD-10 as well during that training session. All right, another provider has asked a question that if this presentation will be available to them. Obviously, for all the providers who have joined us a bit late during this webinar session, you don't have to worry about that if you have just missed a couple of slides, because this webinar will be recorded and will be available to stream on the MTBC's website within the 1 week of the live broadcast. And the link for that is www.mtbc.com/webinars.aspx. Right, there is a provider who have asked that the previous webinar that we hosted on ICD-10 is still not available on the website. Let me just tell you that webinar has been uploaded on a website. Once you will log on to our website, let me just repeat the web address for you. That is www.mtbc.com/webinars with the S in the end .aspx. Once you're just going to log on to that website link, you can just select the category as ICD-10, and there will be a webinar available that we hosted on July 16th, as per my knowledge, and you will be able to listen to that. Right, that is available on our website for the live streaming. All right, if you've got any other questions or comments, you can just contact us by the email address that have been displayed on your screens. That is icd10@mtbc.com. If you want to check the MTBC's progress, you can regarding the ICD-10, you can just log on to the website. That is www.mtbc.com/resources/ICD-10. And if you want to contact our ICD team by the phone line, you can just go ahead and contact us by using the phone number. That is 732-873-5133. The extension is 308. And as I've told you before, this webinar will be recorded and will be available to stream on the MTBC's website within 1 week of live broadcast. Now, that's all pretty much from my end. I thank all the attendees for joining us in today's session. I hope it proved out to be an informative and helpful session for all of you. I wish you all a very good luck with your ICD-10 transition program, and have a blessed day from my end.